Hello everyone, Artist Charles Wolf here, back again for another full-length painting video. Today I'm going to do an abstract on this textured 12 by 24 inch canvas. To get the texture that you see there, I took some PVA glue straight from the bottle there. It's called some tacky PVA glue. I'm going to put it on there, and I took a hair dryer, and as I was drying it, I kept working the glue, moving it around with a brush that I didn't really care about, a very cheap brush, and then let it dry, and it didn't take very long, about 10 minutes to get that textured, and then I started painting. I'm going to start today by using some Mars Black, as well as a new color. I just bought it just the other day, pretty exciting. This is Cadmium Orange Hue. So, I'm going to take a big spatula here and start spreading it around. There's a cut there, and the reason why is my camera turned off and I didn't catch it right at the beginning, so I lost a little bit of footage. All I did is put that little bit of paint right onto the canvas and then took my spatula, as you see here, I worked it out and spread it all around. See, what I did is I went over to my local dollar store where everything you can buy there is like $1, and I grabbed one of their big metal spatulas, the biggest one I could find out of their collection of 3 or 4 different brands that they had there. And I said, I'm going to break this handle off, and it's going to make a huge, nice, but relatively inexpensive palette knife for me as I'm working. I'm going to keep adding a little bit of orange to the top of this canvas, and I'm not too concerned with it blending together or commingling. Now, I don't want to have it overly saturated or overly mixed together while I'm doing this. So if I touch the black, I'm going to try to scrape some of it off before I go right back into the orange, because I do want them to have these sort of blocks of colors. The edges can blur and kind of start mixing, but the centers of them I decided to leave as pure as I could. This is a process of just putting color down and then looking at it, and then putting some other color down and smearing it across and then looking at it. I don't really have a rhyme or reason to why I'm putting yellow there or why I'm putting orange there, other than I just felt impulsively at that moment I needed some more of the color. There's a little bit more of the orange there. I'm going to spread that across here, and I'm just being fairly careful using a feather touch with my big huge spatula. This is not a very complicated technique. I've seen many other videos on YouTube, people doing abstracts this way, and I thought, hey, I've never done one, let's give it a try, let's see. And actually I had a lot more fun than I thought I was going to during this sort of creative hodgepodge, throw the paint on the canvas and see what happens. So it was a lot of fun. Is this my most difficult painting that I've ever done? Well, no. Is this the most complicated thing to do? Well, no. Can anyone use this approach? Probably anyone could actually paint a painting this way. It's not, it's not rocket science here. It's pretty simple. But the end result is actually, I think, looks pretty good, especially with the texturing. There's a lot of movement and depth with the paint, and you get right up next to it and you can see all the depth and the texture. I definitely recommend, if you're going to do a painting this way, to put some texture on the canvas first. Get some PVA glue, maybe try some plaster of Paris, anything like that. I should take a moment here while I'm talking about texturing to credit Dave Usher. He's a fantastic British artist. You should check out his channel. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And he does a lot of these beautiful impressionist sort of quasi-abstracted landscapes. He does acrylics, but he also does some very beautiful watercolors. He likes to take his acrylics and to texture the canvases or the paper that he's using before he starts. So I took his same approach and used some PVA glue like he does. I think he adds some plaster of Paris to it. I didn't, I just used PVA glue. But it creates a nice effect, so be sure to texture it. Adding a little bit more of the orange as I'm going here. The orange is going to become a dominant color. I decided that's the color I really want to shine in this painting, at least for now. And so I'm going to put more and more of it in, just smearing it across. I'm trying to diminish the presence of the black. I wanted the black as sort of an underpainting, so I got a lot of black on there first. And then as I was going along, I said, okay, I want more color laying on top of the black. Now here's my thought. Abstracts are not known for having a lot of depth to them. That's a huge problem, I think, with a lot of abstract paintings, is they're just so flat looking. Even if they have, texture, they still have this very flat sort of looking surface. And even in this painting, I'm struggling against that. I want there to be some simulation of depth, even though it is sort of an abstracted idea. So what I decided was darker colors will recede. I'll put the black underneath. That'll give me some dark background. And then if I lay layers of color on top of each other, I can get sort of a layered effect as I'm receding back into black space behind. At least that's the idea. Does it work? it worked okay. I might maybe use a lighter color, maybe a brown instead, or maybe a light blue if I wanted to simulate sky, and it would look even more like trees. In the end, I decided to emphasize and add some structure with some structural lines at the very, very end, like I said. Where I'm putting in these structural lines, they're going to be like the tree limbs or maybe the leaf stems or what have you. I leave it very vague. It's very minimal because it is an abstract and I don't want to destroy the beauty of just the paint on the canvas. Now this does use a lot of paint, so if you're going to do this technique, I really recommend you don't use your most expensive brand of acrylics, unless you really want to. I'm actually using just some Liquitex Basics. They look pretty good, they hold it pretty well, they mix the way I want, so I'm pretty happy with them, and they are cheap enough so that I can buy them in a pretty good amount of bulk and not feel terrible about using quite so much. I'm going to be using a good bit. So when you start this, just realize you are going to be using a lot of paint because you want to have that abstract texture, which is like lots and lots of layers to it. Not that you can't do an abstract with less paint, I'm not saying that, but for this particular technique, it just requires that much. I'm going to go on and add in a little bit of alizarin crimson here. I need some pop of color, and I think alizarin is perfect for that. It's kind of a cooler red, so it's not going to over-dominate the orange, because the orange still needs to be kind of the center of it, but it's going to complement that orange very nicely, I think, and balance against the yellow and the black quite well. So I'm going to put the paint, the alizarin, in 3 different locations: the top right, the left center, and the bottom right. And here's what I'm thinking. I want the viewer's eye to move up from the bottom to the top of this canvas. So as we're moving upwards, we're going to follow the red from the right-hand side to the left-hand center to the top right. And it's going to help guide us and have some movement across the canvas. So that's what I'm thinking about while I'm painting this. I'm looking at it, making sure that it's balanced and all that. And I thought that those 3 locations were a little bit over orange. There was just too much orange. And so I needed to push that orange layer down a level. So putting the red on top of it will help press that orange across the entire canvas to a lesser level, so it looks like it's sort of behind these red leaves, red trees, whatever they are. I'm not even sure, but I don't want to know because it is an abstract. I'm not trying to be too literal when I'm doing this. Getting very close to the end, just going to take the point of my large spatula here. I was going to call it a palette knife, but it really isn't. It's a big spatula, but I'm using it like a palette knife. And I'm going to take and put in these structural lines that I talked about, sort of doing them like tree limbs or tree branches or things like that. And because I have that white glue, PVA glue underneath, it's going to show up really well. I'm just cutting right through those layers of paint and right to the white so you can see it, and it'll look really vibrant and just really, really great. Again, adding another level to the depth of this painting. I don't want it to look too flat. I want it to be dynamic. I want to have some depth and some movement. So adding in a few of these lines really helps orient the viewer, directs the viewer's eye, and also will just bring the whole composition together in a very pleasing and harmonious way. Overall, it was a lot of fun to do this painting this way. If you haven't tried it, please do. It's a lot of fun. I probably will do a couple more of these as we go along. They're fairly quick to do, which is nice for recording, and I can see why that they're popular because they get a nice result in the end. It's very artistic and messy, and everything that I like to think of as being an artist, just the messy paint everywhere, flying all over the place. It really embodies that on the canvas. Here is the final painting. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out my art blog at impulsiveartistry.blogspot.com. You can buy my artwork at etsy.com/shop/impulsiveartistry. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.